We are back here with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the Bronx for our Green New Deal special. We were talking about the technical feasibility of zeroing out emissions by mid-century, but of course the politics are a real obstacle, so we have to hit those head on. And I want to talk about that with Heather McGhee, who's a Demos Distinguished Senior Fellow. She used to run Demos, which is a progressive think tank, and works about how moving policy through the political system. She's also an MSNBC analyst. And Bob Inglis, who's got some scars to show for his the degree that he cares about climate change. He's a Republican congressman from South Carolina who was primaried actually in 2010 and defeated largely because you said you believed in climate change. Have things gotten better or worse politically on the Republican side of the aisle since 2010?
Much better. Incredibly better.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Really? You really?
Let me, plaintiff's exhibit number 1, if you will. Headline, Republican side of the House Energy and Commerce Committee on February the 6th. Republicans are focused on pragmatic solutions to climate change. Next day, Fred Upton, Greg Walden, and John Shimkus penned an op-ed. The lead Senate said, climate change is real, and we, the Republican leadership, are ready to do something about it. Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor just this week said that he does believe in no, it was off the floor, on a press release.
It was
in a press
very
conference.
quietly.
But no, it was to the press. He said that he does believe that humans cause climate change. This is Mitch McConnell.
And I think that's a result of the millions of, particularly young people, who have been mobilizing on this issue.
Yeah.
I think that... And I don't think you would have had Lamar Alexander and Mitch McConnell for the first time just this past month say climate change is real and human beings are causing it if it weren't for the Green New Deal. If it weren't for a solution that is rooted in one of the most popular pieces of American history, the New Deal, that is coming out here that is saying we can create millions of jobs. This is a fundamentally popular idea. It's popular in Colorado, in North Carolina, in Iowa, in Maine, these places where Republican senators are looking at their prospects and saying, why do we want to be the party of no on millions of new jobs?
Let's say, 2021, let's say there's a Democratic president and there's a Democratic majority in the House, and through remarkable inside straight, there's Democrats have a majority of the Senate. There's not the votes for this, right? I mean, that's what everyone says. This is so far from what could ever pass.
Well, that's why the way the Green New Deal was designed, and I encourage everyone here and watching to actually look it up, because we intentionally wrote it for the people of the United States. Because I'm not here necessarily to convince my colleagues. I'm here to go straight to the electorate. Because there are, and that's why I firmly believe that this is not a partisan issue, because frankly, there are Democrats who will get in our way from saving ourselves too. And, but...
Do you want to name them? Or
but, y'all already know, but the thing is that you don't necessarily have to replace everybody. Even if you want, you can if you want to. You don't necessarily have to replace everyone. If the electorate prioritizes it and overwhelmingly supports it, then we create the political room to pass it.
I guess to ask you, Bob, there's two ways of looking at the Green New Deal. I've seen conservatives say, you're alienating the people you need. Mm-hmm. They hate all the socialism stuff. Just focus on the carbon tax and we can make a grand coalition. And I've seen other people say, we've tried that for 20 years, it hasn't gone anywhere. What do you think?
Well, I think we're seeing the formation of a Tea Party of the left. The Tea Party of the right that tossed me out 10 years ago and went into this decade of disastrous disputation. I think we're at risk of that happening now on the left. Because, last night, Donald Trump was in Michigan. There was a crowd that was really cheering for him.
They were also chanting, AOC sucks at some point, I think.
And so, but what I'd ask you is, what's the difference between last night and tonight? This is the mirror image. This is the flip side. This is the.
That's a good question. No. guys are making his point when you do that. Just FYI.
Yeah.
What I will say.
No, what do you think about that?
So here's what I think. What I think is that we are committed to policies that make American lives better. And we're actually talking about something substantive. We're not calling anyone names. People say Tea Party of the left. And I find this phrase very interesting, this phrasing very interesting, because the grounding of the Tea Party was xenophobia, the underpinnings of white supremacy. But you know, I understand politically what people say Tea Party of the left, because I am a progressive Democrat that won in a primary election and ousted the fourth most powerful person in the Democratic Party. I understand why people would say Tea Party of the left. The exception is that my district is overwhelmingly progressive, and our representative was not representing our actual position. So this is not a Tea Party of the left. This is a return to American representative democracy. It is. And here's a really big difference. The Koch brothers funded the Tea Party, and everyday people funded my campaign.
I want to come back to this point first, but when people say, I mean, there's two ways to interpret the Tea Party, right? One is as a sort of feckless and nihilistic enterprise, right, that has led to this bad situation. The other is a very effective political movement. For instance, if you are organizing a political movement because you don't want action on climate change, the Tea Party was an effective movement. They literally primaried you and got you out, and they delayed action on climate change. So at some level, it's like, I wonder this all the time with progressive activists, like, when you think, Heather, of Tea Party of the left, do you think about that as a good or bad thing?
I think about the country we want to see. Just the Green New Deal, this idea, even when pressure tested and talking about higher taxes and, you know, saying, oh my gosh, Democrats are proposing it, it's more popular than the Republican tax cuts, the $1.5 trillion we just found to give away to corporations and the wealthy. It's more popular than the wall. So I think when we have this idea that left ideas are moving and shaking inside the political atmosphere right now, it's true, but they're left in terms of the inside of Washington. In terms of the American people, they're the centrist ideas because they're about taking back our democracy and our economy.
But I worry that what we do is if we have basically the mirror image of a Trump rally on climate change, that we drive all the people away that could come our way and solve this thing now. And then could we come back to things like universal basic income? Could we come back to health care? Because, you know, I was in 2 Congresses that were totally consumed by health care. You can't do it in a single Congress, the entire Green New Deal. It is literally impossible with the number of committee references that you would have in the course of that. So is it possible that we say, listen, climate change is the thing that we're seeing the whites of its eyes. We've got to act now. Can we come back maybe to universal basic income a little bit later?
Hey, that's unacceptable. And that's the difference between me and Trump.
That's good. I appreciate that.
Back to the actual issue. You do not wave a wand and pass an omnibus all at once. But we can have these priorities. And I absolutely agree with you on that. However, this is the way political opposition works. They don't say no. They say maybe, ha, ha, hoo, ha, ha. And the idea,
they slow walk and they
and here's the thing is, I get that in our political context, in the history of healthcare, in the history of labor rights, in the history of women's rights. These are long struggles and intergenerational struggles, and that is something important for us as young activists to learn as well. We are not the first. We will not be the last. We stand on the shoulders of giants. But Climate change is different because we have an expiration date. And the IPCC report says we've got 12 years to turn it around.
Yeah.
12 years. So my concern is that we are going to be the frog in the pot of boiling water. And we are going to debate and debate and debate and debate and debate. And then when we actually finally pass something, it is a wimpy carbon tax and our kids are doomed.
The threshold now is, we got 12 years to cut emissions in half. And if you want to jump into that debate, great. That's what the debate is. Like, that's the debate. You want to get in the pool, then get in the pool, and we'll have a debate. But that's how everybody, that's the threshold to get people in. And I think that itself is a pretty revolutionary change. Heather McGee and Bob Inglis, thank you so much for coming through.